So truthfully speaking, I was a big fan of Power Rangers growing up. I watched the Mighty Morphin movie so much as a kid on this secondhand VHS we had, and I had endless Power Rangers toys and DVDs, and I was obsessed with Turbo, a Power Rangers movie, which is kind of awful, but I was really fascinated by this one scene on this boat which genuinely scared the dookie out of me when I was a kid, and it's still so clear in my head. But Power Rangers isn't really a thing you grow up with, it's usually something you grow out of. But in 2017 they released a big budget mainstream Power Rangers reboot movie, and it didn't exactly go down well, but in my opinion I think this movie was far too overhated and deserved much more credit than we gave it for. Now, to preface, I don't think this movie is incredible, but I do think it is really fun and something worth revisiting. For a start, the movie begins millions of years ago, where we see the time in which Rita, the former Green Ranger, is defeated by Zordon, and this is an era of the backstory we have never seen before. And this is where all the Power Rangers nerds come at me with one episode from like the 5th season of like the 6th TV show to explain that, you know, we actually did go through this. But listen, I didn't see that, okay? I mean, cinematically, we haven't done this yet. And it's so cool to see Zordon in his prime and the older Power Rangers, and it informs us of how long they've been at this, how long they've been saving the universe or the world. It just makes the role of the Power Rangers feel so much more important. It's a truly prestigious title with a vast legacy, which is something they've never had before this film, because let's be real, before this movie the Rangers were not taken seriously. Power Rangers was not a very serious IP, it was a dumb, goofy show for kids. And whilst this is still that, there is more effort to create a mythos, a sense of reality around them. And to go along with this, there's an attempt to actually give the Power Rangers personalities, which is not really a thing in the old renditions aside from Asian, girl, white guy, black guy, and Tommy. Like the first character we get introduced to after the intro is Jason. He's a classic archetype, you know, he's a bit of a rebel and has a strained relationship with his father, but that's kind of everyone in this group. I love the idea that all of them are sort of misfits, but they're all special in a particular way. Like Jason is a football player, a classic jock, but sticks up for Billy when he's getting bullied despite not knowing him. I like that subversion. It would be so easy to make him the usual football player that's a bit of a bully, or at least doesn't associate himself with who he feels are lesser people. And Billy is like really autistic, which I think is nice representation actually, because his disability isn't exactly treated like a superpower. So it isn't pandering, but it has its benefits to the team and is treated super casually, which I think is great for autistic kids trying to identify with someone like themselves in film that isn't just Rain Man. And he also does dumb stuff like break into the mines. He isn't a perfect character, he has flaws, which is also realistic and just different to the typical mainstream autism representation, which is usually either just soft padding, pandering, or completely offensive. There's also this really funny joke.
I gotta tell you something, okay? I'm on the spectrum.
Well, is that like a workout program?
And I'm not going to go through every character, but trust me, there's some real effort being put into them as people, and though it isn't anything unheard of, they are cliches in a lot of ways. I don't really expect them to be anything more, I just expect them to be characters. And also what helps with that, I think, is the cast. The cast is full of so much talent, like Dacre Montgomery of Stranger Things and Elvis fame, who is great in those but also crushes this. Naomi Scott, who's been in some big projects but has yet to make something universally loved, but she is always fantastic in what she's in. RJ Kyler from Me and Earl and the Dying Girl, The Harder They Fall, and recently The Book of Clarence, in which he's a highlight. Becky G, who's a wonderful singer and a pretty good actor, and even in the supporting we have Bryan Cranston, Elizabeth Banks, Bill Hader, and David Denman, who was in the recent release of Rebel Ridge, which is one of the best movies this year so far, and he's one of the reasons why. And every actor is seemingly having so much fun, which helps create this charming chemistry between the cast, but especially our Rangers, who definitely feel like a real friend group. Elizabeth Banks as Rita Repulsa is so campy and unlike anything she has done before or since, and her hamming it up so much is genuinely smile inducing. Every scene is a delight. And beyond the cast, the filmmaking is surprisingly competent too. The camera work in this chase scene is super well done, very dynamic and unlike anything you'd normally get from a movie like this, and then the total drop is super quiet and somber afterwards. I'd say it's pretty bold to start a Power Rangers movie with a teenager stealing a cow and crashing his car and then ruining all future football prospects, killing his future entirely. It's a dark way to start, and the whole film has that feeling. It feels very dark. I don't want to say gritty because this isn't exactly a 70s crime thriller, but there are themes and moments in this that feel like they've gone beyond the necessary and the bare minimum for a Power Rangers movie. So sure, this doesn't look the best, the lighting is a bit dark and some of the designs are overly stylized, a bit of the Schneider DCEU syndrome, but a lot of the camera work is cute. Some of the designs are pretty cool, like this galaxy looking orb in Alpha 5's head, or Goldar just being this big ugly molten gold titan, which is vastly different from the original design. When you first see Elizabeth Banks in the jewelry store, the makeup is great, and like I said, she compounds this by giving a fun performance full of that original Power Rangers camp, and she's pretty much at full power before the Rangers have even morphed once, which makes her so much more intimidating. The Rangers even try and fight her before they've even been in the suits. It's a big moment for their arcs to show how far they've come, but they also get absolutely destroyed, so it also serves to show how far they still have to go. Oh, and Zordon looks so much better as this technological pin art toy than the big holographic floating head in the middle of a big tube. And also, I don't actually think the suits look terrible. They're a bit over designed, sure, but they have practical ones half the time, which can't even be said for most MCU movies these days, and that makes the action scenes so much more engaging to watch. However, I really don't like the design of the Zords. They do stink quite a bit. There's just so much more to appreciate though, like the discovering of the powers in this is a wee bit Spider-Man, a bit X-Men, but more than anything, it's super reminiscent of Chronicle, which I think is one of the most underrated superhero movies of all time, and I do think there was some inspiration taken from it to build this. I love a lot of the lore additions, and it's fun giving everyone real backstories and an origin. The old TV shows kind of just skim past all of that stuff, even the old movies, because the exciting part of all of those is the Power Rangers stuff. What happens after the suits, but this film is concerned with the Rangers as people and their process to becoming actual superheroes, which they've not really been before. It's also hilarious how Rita's powers come along with their own dubstep sound effects. It's really funny, but also kind of cool sound design. Speaking of the sound design, the music is so fun. There's a lot of electronic music like synthwave and like 50 different arpeggio-led tracks in the score, and there's a Power by Kanye needle drop, as well as a needle drop of the original Power Rangers theme, which is pretty cute, and I cannot overstate how much this score is just popping off sometimes. Like, this really feels like Contra boss battle music. The obvious ad placement of Krispy Kreme is done so distastefully that I think it comes back around to being funny. The fight scenes are pretty well choreographed and the CG in general looks really good, even if the designs are a bit ugly. I also like that Goldar is absolutely battering the Rangers too. Their big third act battle is not easy. They have a real struggle in this, which is appropriate because it's their first battle. This should not be easy. It's a Herculean task that they have to overcome, and they do. They unlock the Megazord through essentially losing, but even then they have to work together. They have to learn to be in perfect unison, which is what the whole conflict of the movie has been. It's solid writing, and though it isn't incredibly novel, it's well done, and that's the best you could really ask for out of a movie like this. Also, the way they defeat Goldar is how they trained in the pit with a goddamn Brock Lesnar German suplex.
Here it comes!
I really am bummed we didn't get any sequels, because I genuinely think with a great visual director, a sequel to this could have been very good. It had the bones of a super fun franchise, a solid cast, great chemistry, a unique take on the lore, and a solid proof of concept first movie. It's no more or less than what the MCU had, but the problem was that this lost like 70 odd million, so all franchise potential was killed, despite a mid-credit scene teasing Tommy. Which, speaking of, we get this one shot of Jason David Frank, which is super sad to look on now given what happened to him, but it's nice he got to be a part of this regardless. So yeah, I don't think this movie is the best movie ever. It's not even an exceptional movie, just an underappreciated film that I think deserves a bit more love. But that's just me. Have you seen Power Rangers? If so, let me know what you think of it. If not, will you? And whether it's a dark reboot of a childhood favourite or not. As always, keep watching movies.